Hey everyone, and welcome back to Don't Open That Door. Come along with our triumvirate of terror as we descend into darkness, head into horror, and plunge into peril. If you've ever been dumb enough to sell your entire life's work for 50 quid and then thrown all your toys out the pram, you're in the right place. I'm Justin, and I play Steel Pan in the orchestra.
I'm Nico, and I'm a spectral Swiffer. Call that a Phantom of the Mopra.
Ooh, I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
Well, mine's kind of lame, but I was going to say I'm Dan, the unfortunate stagehand.
Oh. Well, if you missed last week's episode, Nico, you already know it's the Halloween season, right? You already know we got to tell everyone happy October, building up some real spooky things happening here. So,
of course, sacrifice a lamb at your nearest repository.
You know what it is. So, what's the theme for this month? What kind of movies are we taking a look at?
So this month, we're actually sponsored by Home Depot, and we're looking at some in-depth tutorials of mallets, sledgehammers, and other such related tools.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm ready to learn.
By which I mean hammer films.
Of course. And this week, we're touching on a real classic here, so to speak, The Phantom of the Opera from 1962. This one was directed by Terence Fisher, starring Herbert Lom as the Phantom, Heather Sears as Christine, Edward de Sousa as Harry, Michael Gough.
Why did you say that like Rick Ross?
The salsa.
I don't know what you're talking about.
The boss.
Okay.
It's got Michael Gough as Lord Ambrose Darcy and Thorley Waters as Latimer, the opera manager. So we open with the London Opera House in 1900. A new opera, which was written by the real asshole Lord Darcy, is set to premiere, but the production is plagued by mishaps. Accidents happen all over. Things go missing, etc., etc. This troubles the opera star performer, and then she actually sees like a horribly burned man with one eye appear before her. So this kind of stresses her out, but Harry, the opera's diligent, young, handsome, and just bona fide producer, gets her to relax. And so she actually decides to head on stage and give her performance. That doesn't last real long, though, as a dead man's body falls onto the stage and the show comes to a screeching halt.
Oof.
Now, Dan, I know the show must go on, but what's really going to happen here?
Well, Lord Darcy uses his connections to take away any blame from his opera, and they call the man's death a suicide.
I see.
The opera's star performer refuses to perform, even in the entire country.
Which is wild.
Yeah. So Harry holds an audition and finds that one of the backup singers, Christine, actually has a really nice voice, and he tells Lord Darcy that she is the chosen one and should become the lead singer.
Chosen one!
While in a dressing room, Christine receives an invitation to dinner from Lord Darcy, but also hears a mysterious voice warn her about Lord Darcy, saying that he is not a good person.
Well, speaking of not good people, Nico, why don't you go ahead and take it from here?
Thanks, bud. Appreciate that. So Christine heads out to dinner with local sex offender Lord Darcy, but he's a straight sleaze, I guess, predictably, and tries to get her to come back to his spot for some extra training. And in case you didn't understand my inflection there were like hella air quotes on extra training. Harry walks in, though, and he says that he'll come by to observe, which makes Lord Darcy say, never mind, because, he's a fucking predator. Christine opts to stay with Harry, thankfully, and the two have a wonderful evening together. And from here, folks, it just gets worse. Because she tells him about the mysterious voice that she heard at the opera house. Harry and Christine then swing by, and Christine actually sees the Phantom, and the sight of him makes her faint, which is a little weird now that I think about what he looks like. Just, it's a dude in a mask. Oh, fuck. Like, I don't know. That is increasingly less buoyant of a plot point now that I think about it and say that out loud. But anyway, she faints, so Harry takes her home. But unfortunately for the pair of them, Lord Darcy is mad salty about the previous evening, so he fires both of them, and then he fires the conductor, and then he fires the entire orchestra just because he was being a prissy little fuck.
Yeah, for true. Although that happens a little bit in the future. We'll talk about it, though.
Oh, shit, really? I thought that was then. Oh, well.
It's all right.
Well, he does that, though.
We get, we get. So, much like myself, Harry doesn't really give a damn about getting fired. So, he links up with Christine again, and they make plans to have lunch. Harry notices some sheet music in Christine's room, and the landlady tells him about, this kind of nondescript genius composer who used to live in her spot called Professor Petrie. Harry and Christine do some digging, and they were totally supposed to go to lunch, but he, put that to the side. And they discover that Professor Petrie is presumed to have died in a fire. Spoilers, he totally didn't. The pair have another evening together, make a fucking coachman drive around a park 10 times, and Harry discloses that he's pretty damn sure Darcy didn't write that opera. Petrie did. Also that night, the Phantom sends his minion to kidnap Christine. Lols. Nico, what follows?
So Christine awakens in the Phantom's lair, which is like a sewer cave kind of thing under the opera house. And he basically says that he's going to make her the greatest singer ever. And she doesn't have a choice. So that sucks. And Darcy goes on a firing spree, dismissing many key members of the opera. But the opera house manager grows a backbone, thankfully, and reinstates Harry. So at this point, Harry finds out Christine is missing and more or less goes on a hunt. And he eventually finds the Phantom's secret lair. He confronts the Phantom, saying that he's Professor Petrie and that Lord Darcy stole his opera and music and, his life's work, basically. And the Phantom says, "Yeah, you got me there, bud." And he relates how Lord Darcy was printing his music without giving him any credit. So he burned it, but that kind of backfired horribly, and here we are. He promises that he can make Christine the greatest singer if only she will give him a chance. And I think it was a week or so of time.
Yeah, he said he could work a miracle, but we never get to see what Christine says because the screen mysteriously fades. But Dan, I need you to finish this one. What's going to happen?
Well, I think Christine says yes, because a couple of weeks later, the opera reopens and Christine has the lead role. The Phantom and his minion also show up to watch the performance. The Phantom quickly heads to Lord Darcy's office to confront him, and the sight of him drives Lord Darcy mad, and he runs away. The Phantom's minion is seen, unfortunately, and he is chased round above the stage. Christine performs brilliantly, and the Phantom is happy to see his work completed the way he wants it. But unfortunately, a stage prop comes crashing down on Christine. But wait, the Phantom jumps into action, pushing her out of the way and sacrificing himself to take the full brunt of the prop. He dies. And then there's a pretty quick, pretty abrupt end credit scene. And the end.
Unfortunate for our hero, question mark. More on that later. But first, it's the Phantom of the Opera, Dan. How does this one sound?
It sounds pretty good. I actually like it. There were some interesting choices, I thought, to keep a lot of the musical elements in the movie.
Right.
I liked that.
I thought it was interesting because at the end they actually perform a good 8 minutes straight of the opera that they're performing. And it was an interesting choice because this movie is not a musical. It's not an opera. Yes, it's about an opera, but it's not that. So I just thought that was interesting to actually have that much of the performance in one chunk, Like Nico said, I enjoyed that as well, though.
I'd have to agree. I did like the way that this movie sounded. Again, this, as we watch more Hammer films, it really does the films have similarities between them. And this one, I think, a lot of the soundscaping, for lack of a better word, you can see similarities between this movie and Frankenstein, which we watched previously. And not talking about the opera shit. Obviously, they weren't fucking singing opera in Frankenstein. But, I liked it, though. I really liked it. Nico, any observations about the sounds?
Yeah, I honestly really enjoyed the orchestration, the arrangements. It all sounded very grandiose and bombastic, which fits not only for the branding of Hammer, but like we've been saying, it is an opera, and the music is, I think, arguably more of a component to the whole package of this film, inherently because of the subject matter. And I'm glad that the music is good.
Yeah. Now, Nico, I need you to expound further.
Okay.
How does this movie look?
So I really like the costume design and the set design, particularly for the opera. It feels much more, I think, approachable and understandable just because it's like, yeah, it's an opera, but it doesn't look like it's Buckingham Palace or something. And I think that makes for just in general a more intimate setting that allows for more tension with the characters in the individual scenes. But I also, like you were saying, just how these Hammer films sound similar, I think they also look similarly. One thing that I do like in particular about this that I don't really see too much in more recent horror films is that what little blood there was pretty thick,
Mm,
and I appreciated that.
I'd have to agree with that. So, quick side note: a long time ago, I read a Wishbone book. You remember Wishbone, the dog who would
Oh,
like
Yo,
yeah.
that show was fucking great. They need to bring that back.
a long time ago. I read like a murder mystery Wishbone book.
Mm.
Like, I don't think it was really dying. It was like a mystery, and Wishbone had to solve it and shit like that. And I was like, yo, like this is legit. It's legit right now. And that kind of reminded me of this only because in the Wishbone book it was a play, and in this movie it was like it was an opera, kind of similar vibes. So I fucked with that. I only have one really thing aside from what you were talking about to note, which is I don't know why that's funny to you, Nico.
Both things have play in them.
The Wishbone book wasn't that deep, bruh. What you want from me?
I got nothing.
I'll say this. This is one of the few times that you'll actually see the Phantom from the Phantom, the opera, have a full face mask.
Yeah,
Yeah.
true.
And all of us on this pod are, well esteemed musical gentlemen of varying capabilities. But we do know the reason why, and the reason why I say that is because typically, in like a Broadway production or something like that, the Phantom has to sing. And the full mask was notorious for being difficult to sing in, hard to breathe in, and everything else like that. So more than often than not, you'll see kind of like the half mask kind of thing that they rock. But it was cool to see like the full mask
It's also
because
just like more dramatic, I think. Like it just fucking looks better than paper mache with a hole in it for your eye.
speak for yourself, sir. Speak
I
for
am.
yourself. Well, Dan, what insight can you give me as to paper mache and maybe how this movie looks as well?
Well, paper mache, when I was in middle school, I made a paper mache project and it
Oh, okay.
actually turned out pretty well. It was kind of cool.
Was it a volcano?
I don't think it was a volcano. I don't remember what it was.
I'm a little sad that I never actually did a volcano project in school. I feel like I missed out on a major part of most people's childhoods.
Hey, you know what kind of project Justin did in school, though?
Shut the fuck up, bro.
No, go on. This is
No.
important.
You don't need to tell people this.
Yes, he does. I need to hear this. Go on, please. Yes.
Explain, Justin. What was your scientific question or whatever?
How fast can I get my balls to roll on my wood?
You fucking didn't.
I
Yep.
did. You ever? Okay, so
What?
I took a physics class and I truthfully didn't give a fuck.
I don't think anybody in the class did.
And I had to do a science fair project, but I was so done with science fair projects. We were all seniors. And I was like, bro, I'm not doing no science fair project. So I literally just took like pieces of wood and lubed them up with different substances and rolled balls down. I stood up in front of the
Wow.
class and like the title of my project was like, how fast can my balls go down my wood or something like
oh my
that.
God.
And the teacher was like, oh, very impressive. Good job, Justin. And I was like, thank you. Thank you very much. In retrospect, I probably should have been a lot nicer to that woman.
Yeah, I think we all should have been.
Speaking as a teacher now, yeah.
Anyways,
Anyways,
Live and learn, folks.
what a time. What a time we live in. Dan.
I thought this movie looked good too. And similar to how I found it interesting about the musical aspect in them, including that much of the actual opera itself, man, like the opera performance was like pretty legit too. I mean, they
Yeah.
had people singing, they had like the stage design and everything. Like it, and there's even like oftentimes in opera, there are people doing like some of the performers will do some like acrobatic kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's like somebody gets thrown off of a set of steps and he like lands in a roll and like does all this kind of shit. And I was like, wow,
Yeah.
that's like kind of involved for just sort of the quote unquote backdrop of this movie,
Yeah.
sort of, you know? So I was impressed with that. But overall, I liked the costume design. The mask was kind of uninspired, but that's okay. I'll let it slide.
All right. So, real quick, I have to ask the group: is the Phantom a hero in this movie? Kinda.
Eh,
So, on the one hand, yes, he does kidnap Christine.
yeah. He's less scummy in this version. He's certainly still kind of scummy, but he's less so in this version, I think.
He's also kind of lost his mind a little bit.
A
Yeah.
lot bit.
So, like, I don't know if he can be held entirely responsible for all his actions, but
Yeah, dude has like full on hallucinations and talking to people who aren't there when he's in the middle of when he's trying to teach Christine.
But I will say, those vocal runs she was doing took me way back to fucking chorus class and shit. And also,
Mm.
he pulled a complete face turn and was like, please just let me teach her. I'm so
Yeah.
sorry for everything I've done.
So sorry I kidnapped you and pushed you to exhaustion multiple times and killed people had somebody kill people to get you here.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, do we know that for sure? I'm just saying.
No,
Yes?
I guess not. It's heavily implied, but okay.
I'm gonna say yes.
Hey, listen, if I was the Phantom's defense lawyer, I would say he didn't do shit.
Yeah, that's your job.
But no, that's a good point, though. I mean, he does have a rather heroic redemption, and we see how he's been wronged. So,
I liked that flashback. It was, I think, one of the more interesting scenes in the movie for sure.
Dan, what's your thoughts? Is he a hero to you or not? Just overall.
Not to me. I found it strange that they kind of made him or wanted him to be a hero. Just because,
Yeah.
like at the end, I was like, oh, he's kind of oh, wait a second. He's still kind of a shitty person and has done a lot of shitty things.
Yeah.
But for most of the movie, he's the antagonist. And then at the end, it's like, oh no, I'm gonna, be redemption.
Redeemed?
Redempted. No, he's redempted, and that's what we're gonna run
He's
with.
redempted.
He's redempted. I will say as well, he did, and Dan brought this up, pre-pod, so I'm not gonna take his shine here, but he does have some rather nice trappings and a straight up pipe organ in his sewer cave. Now that must have been a bitch to get down there.
Yo, first of all, yeah, how you getting in there? Second of all, those shits are loud as a motherfucker.
Somebody would hear you?
The whole fucking city block would hear you. If you're coming from the sewers, like where there's a ton of space going up into the, like, there's no way you would have been hidden.
Do you hear that music? What the fuck is it coming from? Like you'd be taking a shit and hear like a concerto come up and shit.
In sleep he sang to me.
Oh man.
Because, pipe organs have human voices.
Yeah.
That would be terrifying.
That'd be fucking horrifying.
That's a horror movie waiting to happen right there. Like they take like lungs from humans and put them in place of the pipe organs. And then whenever they like sing, like human voices come out.
Yo. So basically a MIDI keyboard with more steps.
Our lungs are totally what produces sound.
It's got to be magic at some point, Dan, okay? What you want from me? Okay, fine. They string vocal cords on a piano, and when you hit a key, it makes a human voice. Is that better?
I feel like that's more gruesome, actually. I like it.
Yeah. Points for the gore approach.
Your vocal cords aren't really strings, though, but that's okay.
It's all right. Let me have something here.
Swing and a miss.
I got to ask, how do you guys feel about the really heavy mystery influence that this movie had? Because it wasn't just, horror. Like, yes, it had some scenes of horror and maybe some scary moments, but there's a pretty big mystery element as well. I mean, Harry straight up dons his detective hat and goes exploring and finding shit and everything else like that. And we even discover, this backstory of why the Phantom was wronged. And there's a lot of hallmarks of mystery here. How'd you guys feel about that? Do you like that spice being added into this particular film?
I do. I think it made the story much more interesting than if they were going to. Well, I mean, they literally couldn't have because the Andrew Lloyd Webber version came later. But like, that's constantly what I'm comparing it to,
Mm-hmm.
And I know we're going to talk about that in a little bit here, but it is good to have this be sort of like its own thing, if that makes sense. Granted, credit where credit isn't due. I haven't read the original book. I meant to yesterday and today, but on both days I got tired and took a nap instead.
Fair.
Good choice.
I mean, Dan, how about you? You like mystery? I like mystery.
Yeah, I like mystery. I pretty much want to echo what Nico said too. I thought it added a nice little spice, little flavor to it.
All right. Well, I guess following though on what Nico said, particularly about how you're always going to innately compare it to the musical version, Phantom of the Opera, which is what I would say the mainstream viewer is going to be more attuned to. Let's talk a little bit about the comparisons between this and that. So, I would say the Phantom is probably a darker kind of character in terms of motivations, actions, and such
In which version?
in the musical version.
Yeah.
Because I think there's a lot more of, in particular, so like there's a really famous part of the theme song, or the titular song, shouldn't say theme song, and he's like, sing for me, and she like hits that extremely high note and shit like that everyone knows about, and it's kind of emblematic of the Phantom wanting to almost like take her over, right? Like when she's singing for him.
Yeah.
In this movie, there's also that kind of early on, there's that insistence of sing for me, but by the end, you kind of see it as more so he wanted her to sing his opera for him because that's like the ultimate version. That was my interpretation of it. And I did think that was a difference.
I genuinely hadn't considered that until you said it right then. I like that take.
Because like he cries and everything else like that. He's like, I'm done. I did it. Like that was what I wanted. Like
Yeah.
I wanted that to happen. She has a beautiful voice. We're good. And there's other things we could say though. I mean, Dan, we're not getting any of the classic hits in this one, right? Like we're not getting, because it hadn't been written yet. So
That's right. Yeah, Nightwish hadn't formed as a band yet. So
oh,
That is the first time I heard
I love that
the
version.
fucking Phantom of the Opera, to be honest.
yeah.
To be honest, me as well.
Yeah.
But I mean, very extremely obviously, this is not a musical or opera. So, we don't really have that kind of musical influence. And yes, there is music in this. And like we kind of mentioned, there is music that's performed as an opera, but they're not thematic to this movie. They're the backdrop of this movie, I guess. I don't quite know how to say that properly, but they're not the themes of this movie. It's not, the story isn't told through the musical format.
Sure, yeah.
Which I thought was cool. Not what I was expecting. I was expecting a musical rendition, a little bit more of a horrified musical rendition.
All right. That's fair. Nico, let's do a little bit of testing here.
Okay.
A deep cut as it was.
Okay.
We have actually reviewed another movie with a connection to the Phantom of the Opera. Which movie was that?
I'm going through the halls of my mind palace and they're empty.
I even mentioned it when we reviewed the movie. There was a character I really liked.
I'm going to say this is related to Repo, the Genetic Opera.
Round of applause for Dan.
Oh, really? I was joking because it's an opera.
Oh, wow.
I was literally
Yes.
joking
Okay.
because it's just an opera, but
Okay, all right, fuck. You got it, yeah.
nice.
Because you've got Sarah Brightman. She is Christine in The
Yeah.
Phantom of the Opera.
Mm.
And
Andrew Lloyd Webber wrote that whole fucking show for her. Literally, that's not a bit. Like, he actually did that, and then they broke up.
but think on Happy Times. And yeah, it was dope though. It was dope. So that's a little bit of trivia here. But now I have to ask you guys one last thing. Do you have a favorite scene in this movie? Any kind of favorite scene?
I think the one that stands out the most to me is probably not going to make much sense, but the scene with the rat catcher just seems so
Oi,
out
governor.
of pocket and different for the rest of the fucking movie. Like, hey, I'm the rat catcher. I go around catching rats. Maybe you want to put them in a pie. I don't know. I'm the rat catcher. Like, I just wasn't fucking expecting that.
I've got some big rats. Would you like to see my rats?
I like the ladies who he scared the ladies before.
Oh,
And when Harry was like, "Hey, I think I left my diamond ring," and they all scattered away to go find his diamond ring and steal it or whatever. I think my favorite part was after Darcy fires everyone, he's looking for he's being a sleazeball and looking for the next girl or whatever.
yeah.
He's auditioning, and there's this one girl who sings, and he likes the way she looks, but she can't really sing very well. So he's sitting there listening, and then the manager is sitting there, and the whole time Darcy is got this really infatuated look on his face, and the manager keeps glancing over yo, this is fucking horrible, really. And he looks at him, and he's totally infatuated, and the facial expressions the manager has was really good.
Yeah.
I'm so torn. My favorite scene, I'm going to mention them both, but my favorite scene is probably when they're having that romantic evening, Harry and Christine, and they've got they're kind of making out, some pillow talk shit going on here in the back of their Uber. Sorry, not their Uber, their carriage. And they're just they keep telling the dude to drive around the park over and over and over again. And eventually he's just but for real though, yo, my wife is doesn't want to be home alone at night. This is England in the 1900s, dog. So could I go home? And then they're okay, fine. Yeah, okay, whatever. But then he goes out of his way to cockblock several times. They start making out and he's looking down at him.
Yeah.
Boy, governor.
We got a repeat customer here.
And he's just so he makes a smart remark. He's first the many dates, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go. And I also really like the scene where, similar to what you were talking about, Dan. So it's after the woman's been brought on for her looks and not her skills. There's the conductor.
Oh, yeah.
And he keeps trying to lead her in. And she doesn't even have any kind of timing. She doesn't know when to come in on the song. And then he says, in the nicest way, if you pay close attention, you'll see that I will actually wave you in. And the dude behind him just gets so fucking mad. Lord Darcy's it's mine. I don't need you to tell me what to do. And I'm just you asshole.
Yeah.
That's kind of funny. But one thing that we always take very serious here on the podcast is the what would you do? So for this one, the three of us are going to be members of the opera crew, so to speak.
Got you.
So I'm going to go ahead and say, Dan, I'm going to list you out as you're the conductor.
Okay.
So you're kind of the conductor of the opera. Nico, I'm going to put you in the role of Harry.
All right.
You're productioning this as it was. And I'm going to kind of insert myself as just one of the onstage talents, and I want to ask, so when shit's starting to go wrong, music's being stolen and things are being misplaced and everyone's kind of a little bit freaked out. They're this place must be haunted or something because some shit's going on. What would you do at that point in time? Are you going to be abandoning? What's your feeling at that point in time? I mean, Dan, your music got stolen and everything else like that.
I probably wouldn't think it was a haunting. I would probably think it's somebody either playing jokes or somebody with a grudge, which I guess is what it really is, but I wouldn't think haunting, at least not immediately.
Okay. All right. Nico, are you in the same boat there?
Yeah, and even if it was a haunting, if his only demand was hey, yo, keep this one box empty and we're good. I don't know if that's such a big price to pay.
That's fair. I also probably wouldn't think it was a massive or major haunting, though I would definitely be on guard. Guard. So now, the dead man, his body falls on the play. The star, the lead singer, she's hey, I saw this dude horribly disfigured, and all this shit goes on. Play has to come to a halt. Are we still sticking with it? Or at that point in time, are you nah, I gotta be out, I'm sorry?
Well, I mean, if the play's out, then we're all out of a job. So yeah.
They delayed it, to open in a couple weeks again. So are we sticking around for the rest of the production, or are we?
Oh, yeah, I'd stick around.
That's tough. I would want to leave, but I'm performing in an opera by one of the biggest producers or whatever, and one of the best directors, and I think I would stick around in that regard, but I would want to leave.
And last but not least here, let's say, the three of us get on some Scooby-Doo shit and we find out what's good with the Phantom. We know where he is, we know his backstory. What would you do? What would you do knowing the Phantom's full backstory? What would you do?
I mean, I don't know if this is necessarily a hot take, but I think I'd just fucking leave him there. Like, he's in a sewer. And yeah, he's got a pipe organ, but I don't know. Dude's already kind of fucked up. I would kind of just be like, hey, oh, boss, you got some damage. I get it. We all got skeletons in our closet. Maybe go to therapy. I'm out.
Has Christine been kidnapped at this point?
Good question.
Yes, she has been kidnapped.
So I would be a white person and I would just call the police.
Ah,
I mean, I don't gotta track this man down. There's people who get paid to do that.
Not my goddamn job.
Exactly.
they're never going to find her, so we end up finding her. We find the Phantom.
Nah, see that sewer right there?
Oh.
You hear that fucking pipe organ coming from it? That's a supposedly dead man in there.
Yeah.
I would say that honestly, I would blackmail Lord Darcy for money. Like,
Golden route.
Entrepreneurial spirit there.
I would just find out, hey, bro, like, wait a second, like, you wrote this music, or you didn't write this music. I'll tell you what, bro, if you cut me, like, way more than you cut that dude for his whole fucking life's work, because in the movie they say he did it for 50 quid, you know what I'm saying? And that's just not acceptable. So if he cuts me
all.
some money, I'd be like, mum's the word, bro. This man's already, you know, in the sewers, like, acting out, so I don't really care. Like, you just cut me the money, bro. We'll be good. I guess we're all scumbags in this one. Now,
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
we're going to shift gears here now, talking about the critic review. And I will say right now, this is one of those that does not have a critic review on Rotten Tomatoes. So we're going to compare the IMDb score here and the Rotten Tomatoes score. So where do we think this one is? Where do we think this one is at?
I think pretty high. You know, as a Hammer film, based off of the few that we've seen on the pod already, I think they're already pretty high quality. And I have to imagine they were, you know, like well renowned back in the day. So I'm going to guess like a 79.
If I told you this movie did not do so well when released, would that change your mind?
Nah, I'm going to stick to my guns.
All right.
I'm kind of with it. I can see this movie not doing well when it came out, but I feel like it aged well, and I think people now appreciate it more than back then. I'm gonna give it just a fuck. I guess I can't say a 79. I'm gonna say 77.
Well, Dan, you take the cake.
Yay.
On IMDb, this one's got a 6.4 out of 10, making it a 64 out of 100.
Okay.
Or if we're going to go off Rotten Tomatoes, the audience score is a 49%.
Oof.
Dang.
So not really what we would consider to be a high ranking here. And I would say, for the record, you know, for me, where I kind of lie in this mix, I would probably give it about a 70, to be honest. Like, and we could all say what we think here, but in my opinion, this was a good movie. Maybe not the greatest one ever, but I thought it was a good movie. How about you two?
I'm gonna give it a 65. Thought it was overall enjoyable, but I didn't love it. I don't know. Pacing issues, in my opinion, but I thought it was all right.
Okay.
I'm going to give it a 73. I liked it much more than I thought I was going to. And even though the design and the appearance of the Phantom is just real fucking goofy, I had a good time watching this.
All right. So, do we recommend this one?
Surprisingly enough, yeah.
I think so. Even though I gave it sort of a lower positive, I think I'd still recommend it.
Yeah, this one's going to get a yeah from me.
Wow.
Because it's like, yeah, but like only just a yeah.
Yeah.
So real quick, after we've just now recommended it and nothing else happened, do we give this one the golden seal of approval?
Nah.
Nah. Fair enough. Any last words before we wrap this up?
Yeah. Andrew Lloyd Webber, if you're listening, are you okay? Like, Cats is so fucking weird, man.
Let's not talk about that remake.
No, let's.
But, you know, if you like what you've heard and you want to let us know how right we are or how wrong we are, or just, you know, general love That's okay. We take everything here. Hit us up on social media. We're on Twitter and Instagram at DOTD Horror. We're also on Facebook. That's Don't Open That Door. Plus, you can check out everything we've done on our website. Of course, that's dotdhorror.com. And if you do like what you hear, give us a positive review on whatever medium you're listening to us on. Whether you're listening to us on, Papyrus, whether you're listening to us on Apple, whatever it is you got. Papyrus is coming up, bro.
In what way?
Are you talking about the card company? The paper company?
Are you talking about the ancient, scrolls used for, scripture?
While we puzzle through that, dear audience, take care of yourselves. Think of me fondly. And as always, dear listener, don't open that door. Bye.
Or did you mean the font?
I meant the fucking ancient scales of yore.
In those ancient days, those old and ancient days.
Bro, the lyrics that, oh my God, we gotta listen to that song again, bro.